Yo guys, in this video we are gonna talk about finding new narratives. So currently we are in a bear market and many of you haven't experienced the bull market. So all your experience is bear market experience. I already talked about the differences between bull market and bear market. So you must have seen those videos. Now in this video, I want to take a look at a few examples and tell you how these are different from each other and what you should look for when you see new narratives. And that's about it. So first of all, in March, we had the Arbitrum airdrop narrative, right? But it's bear market narrative. So if you position yourself well, then you could make money on different Arbitrum altcoins thanks to liquidity incentives. So basically, this is one example, Vesta, which is now a closed project, whatever, but you could see it went up quite a lot during those times. And of course, then it bleeds out. But as you see, this is like, let's say a 4-5x, which is good money, but it's not the bull market craziness, right? But again, there was an Arbitrum narrative, even in bear market, which was a totally separate narrative. And you can check GMX price going up as well during the same timeline. And then, for instance, another narrative during this summer was the Telegram bot narrative. So again, this was like more than a 10x, or if you bought in very early, even more, got hyped up. But this is basically PvP market, still player versus player. And it's actually insane that it went up to $200 million market cap because there are not that many players. But this is a separate narrative. As you can see, this is Telegram bots. The previous was L2 narrative to airdrop and liquidity incentive narrative. And then of course, the newest kid on the block, it's the social finance projects, which is totally something new. And it started in this current bear market. You must be familiar with Frentech, etc. And you can see how this narrative plays out, which I'm not going to talk about right now. What I'm going to tell you here is that if you spot this early, then it's free money again. But it's very hard to spot these early. And that's why you have to always keep digging. That's how it works, right? For instance, when this started, I didn't spot it immediately because I was traveling, right? But if you are in front of the computer all the time, it's a bit of like fishing, maybe even in bear market, right? So now I'm talking about the bear market narratives. It's like fishing, maybe for a few weeks or 2 months, nothing is happening. Then if you still persist and you are waiting for the fish to find, then a new opportunity will show up and then you can make money, right? So people who bought keys early made a shit ton of money on Frentech. People who found the Telegram bots early made money on this too, right? Arbitrum same. So even in bear market, there are narratives, but the difference here is there are not that many, right? They don't happen all the time and the players are very good. And I explained this in a previous video, but what I wanted to say here is that you could see there are still narratives in bear markets as well. So now let's go to the bull market narratives. Let's look at the BNB price chart. So you can see this started end of January. Basically, it went up 15x, which is insane because it was a big coin already, right? It wasn't like a shit coin or altcoin. And even then it made huge returns. And then you can imagine all the altcoins in the ecosystem, you could make much more. So during bull market, the money is much more insane, right? We talked about this. And if you spot a narrative a few days late, you should be still fine because narratives in bull market last longer. And stupid people are slow to join. And again, it's PvE market, not PvP. So there is going to be retards who join later because they are not playing the crypto game, right? If you were late with social finance or Unibot just a bit, then you couldn't make that much money because players are quick. So again, very important, when you spot a narrative in bull market, you have more time to react and the returns are insane. And what's important here, that when there are narratives, there are typical plays that can happen separate time, but it's the same play, and there are totally different plays. That's what's super important. So for instance, BNB is another chain, right? So basically liquidity flew from Ethereum to Binance and Binance ecosystem, right? So that was the first one. And this could give you the best returns if you expected this, because this was the first wave. So then if you spotted this one in time, insane money. But then since it's bull market, even later, half a year later, basically in August, right? The previous was February, you could still make a shit ton of money on Avalanche. There was Avalanche Rush. And then this is the same play as Binance. So this is, in the meantime, there was also Polygon or Matic Rush as well. So it wasn't even the second play. So people by this time were already familiar with the play and and you could still make a shit ton of money on it because it was bull market, right? You had time to buy in. So that's insane. And this is very important because again, this was like the third time this occurred, this new chain rush. So if you were there for the first time, then for the second time, it's very familiar. That's how, and players are very good at this, right? When something happens, something very new, like in BNB's case, for the first time, it's very hard to know what's going to happen, right? Because there was no previous instances. So you cannot compare it to anything. But if someone saw this playing out, right, the Binance chain, then the Avalanche chain play half a year later was easy money for them because they were already familiar with the previous play. And this is very important. That's why you should be practicing a lot, because if you are there for the first time, let's say for the Binance smart chain play, and you didn't make that much money, but at least you were present, then you know what's going on, you understand it. And when the narrative plays out further, then you know how to make money on it. Super important, right? So these are basically the same plays. First with Binance and then with Avalanche. And what's good again is that in bull market, you have more time to react. You are not gonna be that late because more money will come in after you. Right? So now with social finance and stuff like that, you had to be quick because these are smaller narratives because only few players are in the ecosystem right now, right? Everything is down. It's the end of the bear market. So if you played the social finance narrative right now, you could see that it's changing so quick by the day. You see the number of transactions on different platforms. It can be by the day, which is fucking insane, right? And if you check here, it's like half a year later, the same thing played out. So timelines are very different and the players are very different as well. Super important to remember this. And again, within the bull market, sometimes it's hard to spot new things, right? So there was Axie Infinity, which is basically gaming with some NFTs, which started the NFT bull market. But it's important that this was gaming and not NFTs. So some people, basically nobody spotted Axie in the beginning. It was very hard to spot. Totally new narrative. No one's seen this before. And then the NFTs came, and the NFT narrative started a month after this. But that was also hard to spot because why would PFPs go up after a gaming project goes up, right? But then within the NFT narrative, if you were there for the first few days or weeks, then you could know what's going to happen next and you could buy into the next NFTs, right? But you have to sit in front of the computer all the time during bull market because you don't know where the next opportunity will come from. But again, insane returns. So basically for weeks and months and maybe even for more than a year, you will have to be ready because again, a totally new narrative arises, and then if you are not around, then you will fuck it up. And you have to be there to understand what's going on, so it's much easier to react to the next thing. And again, another one, Spell and some other DeFi 2.0 projects, you could say, went up a lot in September, October, November. That was another totally separate narrative from the previous one. So as this is gaming, this was just a chain ecosystem plays, and now this was basically some new DeFi protocol plays. And again, totally separate from the previous two. You had to sit in front of the computer all the time and do research to spot this one, right? So that's why when during bull market, there is going to be many opportunities, but it requires you to put in the work and sit in front of the computer because sometimes you don't know where the opportunity comes from. But then if you spot the narrative early, let's say the first play of the narrative, then you will be able to play rest of the narrative, right? Of course, it's very hard to spot the first step, right? No one knows what's gonna happen. No one knew Axie would go up like this, basically, or this would trigger an NFT bull market. This was expected, so I was good with this one with the BNB, for instance, because we could see how expensive Ethereum was. But no one would have guessed that all the chains would go up like that after, right? So no one expected this as narrative because when this went up, only this was basically available besides Ethereum. So of course everyone bought in, but then there were many chains and still played out similarly. By then everyone was familiar with it and could play it well. But if you ask people in January, then no one would have told Avalanche would go up like this half a year later or at all, right? So that's why you have to be there, play everything you can, even at least with small money. So then when new opportunity arises, you will be able to join and make money. So keep in mind that in bull markets, again, the narratives are longer and much bigger because it's a PvE market, not a PvP. And even if you are a very bit slow, you will have opportunity to make money. But again, again, you have to train your brain that bear markets and bull markets are different, right? Again, if you are a bit late in bear market, you are fucked. And if you train your brain this way, then when you see an opportunity in bull market and let's say it went up a bit like here, then you won't buy in because that's what you learned in bear market. But bull markets are different. And again, you have to sit in front of the computer all the time and try to spot the different narratives, and you have to spot them early, or at least play it even though if you are a bit late, because then when the next play comes for the same narrative, you will know what the fuck to do.